Dr. Bradt is president and CEO of Bradt Leadership, a company dedicated to leadership development. Using his background in clinical psychology, he has spent the past 2 decades consulting with the nation's senior business leaders, advising them on how to get better results through better leadership. Now, he can bring his wealth of knowledge and powerful tools to work for your organization.
Here's kind of an ironic sort of thing. One of the best ways to deal with change is don't. Don't change your core values. Because when you have those core values, they guide you. You know what to do. Change is all about people. I had a guy come up to me, it was actually after the last talk I gave. The guy came up to me and says, Gary, I got a lot of your principles, I appreciate it, it was good, la-di-da. He says, but I don't have time to go out there and spend all this time with people. He says, I'm too busy doing all of my stuff to go out there and try to help them with their stuff. So what do I do about that? I said, excuse me, sir, could you tell me what your role is in the organization? Yeah, I'm the CEO, I'm the director. Sir, respectfully, those people are your stuff. I know you've got a lot of other success books and stuff to tell you managing your time is one of the keys to success. It is a key to success, but not when you're trying to lead people through change. Then you've got to invest your time. I'm going to tell you a story that I barely believe myself, but it happened. I live in North Carolina. We have a professional football team called the Carolina Panthers. A couple of years ago, one of our players on the team, his name is Steve Smith, some of you football fans may remember this, got angry in a meeting, attacked a teammate, beat him up so bad, the teammate had to go to the hospital. And when I first started telling the story, I'd say to my audiences, can you imagine doing that in a meeting at work? And then I found out most people go, yeah, sure. But Steve actually did it. Steve was a good punt returner on the team. The team's response was to suspend him for 1 game. His teammate's career was in jeopardy. He was beat up so bad. Steve gets suspended for 1 game. I'm going, I got a 13-year-old kid at home. I'm trying to teach him values. I told you about your core set of values. And the team suspends this guy for 1 game after he beats up his teammate. That's nuts. I mean, you know why? I'm going to have to explain to my son, Dad, why is Steve back on the field? Well, Steve's a really good football player, son. We need him on the team. The next week, the team lost 34-0, too. I said, you know what? Leadership quit on that team. So I go on the internet, I Google owner of the Carolina Panthers. Jerry Richardson popped up, and his address popped up. I didn't know him from Adam, but I got out my little computer and I typed up an angry letter to Jerry. Dear Mr. Richardson, I disagree with the way your team handled the Steve Smith situation. You should have given Steve more time off. I'm no longer going to be a fan of yours, and I'm going to teach my kid not to be a fan. I mean, I was pretty mad. Sent it off. I didn't expect to hear anything back, and I didn't. What I really didn't want was one of those customer service form letters. God, I knew it'd end up on some customer service desk somewhere, right? And I didn't want to get one of those letters. Dear Dr. Bradt, thank you for your interest in the Carolina Panthers. We're sorry you had such a difficult time. Please accept this pennant. You know, I'm like, no. Thank goodness I got nothing. That's okay by me. I didn't expect anything. And Jerry Richardson never see this stupid letter, but at least I got it off my chest. That was in October, I do believe. Next February, the football season's over. I come home from the gym, several months later, I come home from the gym. My wife says, look at this. Hands it to me. It's a faxed copy of my letter to Jerry Richardson. A little note at the top of it, actually. Dear Gary, got your letter. Steve Smith and I would like to come visit with you and your son. I will call at 10 a.m. to discuss. Jerry Richardson. That's good. That's really good. How did one of my buddies get a hold of this letter? That's good. I like that. Sure enough, the phone rings at 10 o'clock. I pick it up. Hello. Oh, Gary, it's Jerry Richardson. Yeah, this is the Easter Bunny. Who is this really? Jerry Richardson. Didn't sound like any of my buddies, so I'm beginning to think, well, maybe why would he call? Well, what's the purpose of the call, Mr. Richardson? I told you. And I got your letter, and Steve Smith wants to come up and visit. I want to come up and visit you and your son. We live 100 miles from the headquarters of the Carolina Panthers. And my mind's just racing a mile. I mean, Jerry Richardson is not coming 100 miles to visit me. I said, sir, I'm sorry, what was the purpose? He goes, I already told you now. He's getting a little upset, right? And he goes, we want to come visit with you. So, all right, sir. So we set a date, and I hang up the phone. I go to my wife. I said, honey, listen, an NFL owner and a player, they're not coming 100 miles to visit a kid. What's up? My wife says, she's smart. She goes, well, you know what it is? It's probably a PR deal. They're probably going to be coming through here on some sort of PR campaign anyhow. They're going to swing by the house, have some photographers, reporters, a little photo op kind of deal, do a nice feel-good story on the Panthers. Yeah, okay, that's one theory. That makes sense. So I call my brother up. Big mistake. Never call your brother in these kind of situations. I call my brother up. I explain the situation to him, and I said, Jeff, I can't understand why they're coming. He goes, oh, I know why they're coming, all right. I said, you do? Tell me. He goes, beat the crap out of you, too. I said, thank you, big brother. I hadn't thought about that, but that makes even more sense than what Peggy came up with. The day comes, it's snowing. I said, okay, they're out. They're not driving through the snow. I get, okay, we're on our way. They come and they spend 3 hours with us. Jerry Richardson, owner of the Carolina Panthers, and Steve Smith. Jerry later told me that he didn't make Steve come. He just showed Steve my letter and said, I'm going to go visit this guy and his kid. You want to come? And Steve said, yes. I admire Steve greatly for that. It turns out Steve's a good guy, made a bad mistake. Steve ends up going to McDonald's, takes my kid to McDonald's, comes back, plays foosball, lets my son beat him. Jerry and I go to lunch, and he spent the lunch explaining to me why the team had done what they had done with Steve Smith. He said, now, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you earlier. I was in the hospital when your letter came. I didn't know that. And it took me several months to recuperate. I'm just getting caught up with my backlog. And you know what's really cool? He never once apologized to me because he didn't feel bad about what they had done. He felt bad about the fact that I was upset. Matter of fact, at the end of the lunch, I said, Mr. Richardson, I really appreciate you sharing all this with me, but I'm still blown away that you came all this way just to share it with me. How come? You were unhappy. We don't like unhappy customers. But I'm just one unhappy customer. That's right. You must have gotten a lot of other angry responses to that situation with Steve. We did. So why me? He looks at me and he goes, you were really angry. You know, folks, that's a great customer service story, isn't it? And you can take that one to heart. But I'm not here to talk about customer service. I'm talking about leading change. So what's that got to do with leading change? Well, frankly, I didn't get it. I just go, man, this is incredible. I didn't get it until a year later. A year later, the Panthers go to the Super Bowl. Steve Smith emerged as a team leader for us. Leads us to the Super Bowl. We lose at the last second to the New England Patriots. It's a great game. And after the game, Steve comes out in the papers and says, my contract is up, but I want to stay with the Carolina Panthers. And I'm going, now, why would he do that before he's even signed a contract? And then, bam, that old Jerry Richardson, that son of a gun. He wasn't just investing time in a fan that day and his son, which he was, but he was doing something even more important for his organization. What was he doing? He was investing time in Steve Smith. The fact that they lived 100 miles away, guess what that meant? That meant they drove 2.5 hours one way and 2.5 hours. They had 4 or 5 hours in the car together, just Jerry, and Jerry drove, not one of these big wigs, just Jerry and Steve in the car. And I started thinking, man, think about the stuff those guys were able to talk about. Think about the relationship they were able to cement. Think the message that sent to Steve Smith when Jerry invested that time in him. Were there a lot of better ways for Jerry to spend his time that day than visit one fan and his son? Probably, but there wasn't a better way to invest his time in that player. People are your stuff. One of the ways you can deal with change, I learned this from Jerry, is I want you to examine your organizations right now and ask yourselves, who are the people I'm going to need to rely on when the stuff hits the fan?